What's up everybody, Joe from Omnia here, and today we're doing a rod bending session of my favorite rods from 2024. Right in front of me here, just to get started, we have the Poison Adrina 7.3 medium heavy. This has become one of my favorite rods that I own. It weighs in at 3.9 ounces. It's really truly I'd say like multi-function style medium heavy rod, but I was using this mostly for flipping and pitching shallow, sparse to medium cover. I wouldn't use this for like really topped out heavy milfoil, but I would use it for that milfoil that grows up just below the surface. Seems like we don't get too much topped up stuff out here anymore like we used to. But this thing has plenty of power. It's got the carbon monocoque handle. This is the old version. The new version's on the way and they're kind of the same, but just a little bit flashier, I would say. If you're on the market or even considering this rod, I would say you won't regret owning this thing. This has become my favorite rod, my #1 rod from 2024. Let's bend it on the wall. All right, we have the 7.3 medium heavy Poison Adrina. This is a regular fast rod. I don't know if I mentioned that before, but as soon as you load it up, you can see the way it bends here. I'm actually not as technically inclined as these other guys at doing the rod bendings here, but I'll do my best. If you give it a little bit of power, this thing does have a lot more power than you might think. Just picking it up when I first started using it, I thought this was gonna be like a 3/16 ounce or a 1/4 ounce Texas rig rod, but I've had no problem fishing all the way up to a 1/2 ounce for things like pretty much all of my braid dual leader, jig, and Texas rig fishing. This was my main rod for that application. This is the 7.3 medium heavy Poison Adrina. All right, my next model choice here for my top rods from 2024 is in the Shimano X Pride line. This is the 7.2 heavy Shimano X Pride casting rod. The X Pride B, the second generation of these rods. This has been my #1 jig rod, but not for a braid dual leader. I do think this rod's a little too powerful for a braid dual leader setup, unless you're fishing incredibly heavy cover. But this was kind of my like structure jig, dock skip and jig style of rod. I like to run 20-pound fluorocarbon on my dock skip and setup when I'm skipping a jig. I just feel like once the fish is hooked and they get wrapped around those posts real bad, you can kind of just lean on them and they'll come off, whereas I've had trouble with braid breaking before around dock posts occasionally. But this is the 7.2 heavy fast from Shimano in the X Pride series. All right, we're on the rod wall with the 7.2 heavy in the X Pride. This weighed at 4.1 ounces, pretty lightweight rod. And you'll notice here, right when you put rod pressure on it, this is a true heavy action, I would say, rod. Heavy with the heavy power, fast action rod. Like I said before, this thing has plenty of power, but I don't like this for a braid dual leader setup when I'm flipping, just because I feel like it's almost too powerful and you can rip the hook out of the fish's mouth. That's where I like to use that Poison Adrina instead. But everything, you know, my heavy fluorocarbon, 17 to 20 pound fluorocarbon, this is, in my opinion, the best fluorocarbon jig rod you can buy on the market at just under 300 bucks, 279, I think. But plenty of power in this rod. Pretty much everything you'd ask for, the 7.2 heavy style of casting rod. All right, what's up everyone? We're back again here. This is my third choice for my favorite rods of 2024. This is the DAA Ste AGS 7.2 heavy. This is what they call their power pitch rod. In my opinion, unlike the X Pride, this rod actually, I was able to use braid dual leader successfully flipping with this rod. In my opinion, from what I've noticed, this rod feels like it has a little bit more of a moderate or more parabolic action to it compared to that X Pride, which allows you to get away with a braid dual leader setup. I was going back and forth all summer long, a braid dual leader or straight fluorocarbon on this rod. Excellent rod, AGS guide train on there, super sensitive rod. One of my favorites from 2024. The Ste AGS weighs in at 4.3 ounces. It's actually one of the heavier ones of all the rods I brought here today, but they all came in between 3.9 and 4.3 ounces. Let's check out the DAA Ste AGS 7.2 heavy. All right, we have the DAA Ste AGS 7.2 heavy. This is what they call their power pitch rod. And as you can see here, when I'm bending it, it feels like this rod, like I mentioned before, it feels like it when you're fishing it. It might not be easy to tell here, but when you're actually fishing it and battling fish, this thing does feel like it's a little bit more parabolic, bends a little further in the blank than the 7.2 heavy X Pride, which again allows me to get away with braid dual leader when I fish with this rod. Super sensitive, super powerful, the Ste AGS 7.2 heavy. All right, what's up everyone? We're back again. This is another rod from my top rods of 2024. This is the Lumis NX Plus 893C for all you Lumis nerds out there. I just rather go the length in action. This is 7.5 extra heavy or extra fast, medium heavy rod. I love this rod. This became one of my favorites this year. Weighs in at 4 ounces. And I was going back and forth again. A lot of these rods that I use, part of the year when I'm fishing shallower, doing a lot more flipping and pitching around, beds or cover shallow stuff, I ran more braid, but as fish get off deeper and offshore, a little bit more fluorocarbon. This rod was great for both applications for things like offshore football jig, or like I use it a lot for like a wobblehead style bait with straight fluorocarbon, like 15 to 17 pound fluoro. And then in the fall, I actually ran this rod. I threw a swim jig on this rod quite a bit, mostly because you can get great distance with it with a 7.5. But once you get bowed up on a fish, you can just kind of lean into them and start pulling. You don't really have to set the hook. Awesome rod, the Lumis 7.5 medium heavy extra fast. All right, we are on the wall here with the Lumis NX Plus 7.5 medium heavy extra fast. It's 893 JWR casting rod, and this is kind of your true extra fast. It doesn't take almost any pressure to get the tip to start to dance on this rod. Super sensitive, super lightweight. Awesome rod for your like a deep bottom contact type of rod, I would say, or like I said, I was using it for a swim jig too later in the fall. Great power on this rod, medium heavy, extra fast. The Lumis NX Plus 7.5 medium heavy, extra fast. All right, everyone, we're back with my final rod from my best rods of 2024, and we had to throw at least one spinning rod in there. This was my drop shot rod for most of the year. This is the Croix Avid 7-foot medium light fast action rod. I have had this rod since probably 2011, I think, or 2012. They just recently came out with a new re-release of the Avid. They have this exact model. I've held it in hand. It makes me want to buy more. It's got a little bit nicer handle on here. This old style has this knob style handle here, but the new one has a more sleek foregrip, I would say. But the Croix 7-foot medium light fast action spinning rod weighs in at 4 ounces. Let's check it out on the wall. All right, again, here I am with the Croix Avid 7-foot medium light fast action rod. This was my drop shot rod. I do a lot of fishing around here in the cities. I fished the Denny Super 30 series with a buddy of mine, and pretty much all largemouth fishing, outside of the bedtime fishing early in the year for smallmouth, it's pretty much all, I'd say, like submerged vegetation, largemouth fishing for the most part, a little bit of rock and dock thrown in there too. But for my deeper water drop shot rod, this was my #1 choice. It just loads up. I love the action on this rod when you're fighting a fish. It's just really fun to use. And the fish always stay pinned, that medium light action. It almost kind of like, the power of this rod kind of lends it to be almost, it's got a fast action tip, but when you're battling that fish, they really kind of stay pinned. It's more like a moderate action rod. It really feels like in hand. So this is my one spinning rod choice from 2024. This is the 7-foot medium light Croix Avid spinning rod. That wraps it up for my favorite rods from 2024. Make sure you check out all of our rod bending videos in the series and look for more on the way. Leave a comment below if you see any rods or know of any rods you'd like to see, and make sure you check out more at omniafishing.com.